Magic 2015, every card has a story to tell. Let's meet a few of the Angels and Dejanis, the Life Gainers and the Life Takers in white.
White basically does two things. One, it's the army color. It's the color that has the most little tiny creatures, and it makes them all work together to build an army. And it's the defensive color. It's the color that has all the answers to protect yourselves so you can stall until you get the things you need to win.
I like the card Ajani Steadfast, but it's a little poignant because in the art he's wearing Elspeth's cloak, and so it's a memento of the friend he lost.
We'd just come off of another Ajani, and so we knew we needed something that was a little bit of a different angle. And the core set, because it has more Planeswalkers than normal, and because we were kind of telling this story about Garruk and about the Planeswalkers, we had a little bit of a theme running through of cards actually referencing other Planeswalkers in a way that we normally don't get the chance to. So the part of Ajani that really excites me is that second ability where he actually puts loyalty counters on your other Planeswalker. We made sure he only had single white in his mana cost so that that played really nicely into a deck where you might have a bunch of Planeswalkers.
Uncommon build-arounds are something we do for Limited to kind of give people direction and help them in their early picks to figure out what their deck's supposed to do. Ajani's Primate is an excellent example of this. It's a very simple and clean card. You gain life, it gets bigger, and when you have cards in set like Soulmender, it's really obvious, okay, turn 1 Soulmender, turn 2 Ajani's Primate, 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, 6/6.
I like the card Selfless Cathar because it's from the first set I concepted, and I remember the moment sitting down, writing the art description, and trying to imagine what that art would look like, and then it came back and I was thrilled.
So the red-white deck in this format is supposed to be about auras. Heliod's Pilgrim is our way to make you want to draft more auras. One of the things that I was frustrated with later on in development was that there wasn't a white aura that was a removal spell at common that you could go tutor for. The problem is if you put something really strong, then it starts to get kind of oppressive if that all sits inside one color. So I went looking for something that was powerful enough you'd want to play it with the Pilgrim, but not so powerful that it would make people want to throw things if you had like 2 Pilgrims and 2 Pacifisms or whatever.
Hushwing Gryff is a card we actually tried to create in M14. The card that's now imposing Sovereign actually started off as, we call him Torpor Orb Guy. The problem was that at that time, when we were working on Theros, Bestow actually worked slightly differently. The creatures came into play as creatures, and they turned into enchantments and then kind of snapped onto creatures. Well, we realized all of a sudden, oh boy, this card is going to kind of nerf the entire mechanic of the next set. And so we pushed it off and said, well, we should really, you know, we're a little worried about this, let's push it off. Of course, Bestow ended up changing. The rules for it changed a bit. But so then when we came to M15, we realized this was still a card we wanted to make. It's a card we wanted to see in Modern. And so we put it on a body that was a little different than the creature the first time, but still very interesting.
Slivers were a big part of M14. Aaron thought we're at the tail end of the standard that's going to have M14 in it. We should insert a few more slivers to really liven up what that deck is doing. Maybe give it a chance at becoming more of a constructed deck. Just give people, it's going to be our last chance for a little while to include slivers. And so we wanted to sprinkle them in. In Limited, you're not going to see a ton of the synergy, though some of them work really well together, like Constricting Sliver, which looks just kind of innocuous. It's an expensive Fiend Hunter type card. But when you get a second one on the table, and you're now double Fiend Huntering from your single sliver, they start to really add up.
We're always sort of looking for new ways to find interesting removal for Limited, and one of the coolest cards in this set for that and that purpose is Pillar of Light, which does something that White has kind of done before, but never quite in this manner. So we're used to seeing cards like Reprisal for White, which of course kills a creature with large power, and this time we've actually gone and trying out creatures with large toughness, which for White was the biggest problem in the set, was getting by all the creatures that really were very defensive.
One of White's problems is that it's 5th in card advantage, that it doesn't get to the cards as easily as the other colors. But we want to make a small army that's going to overrun the opponent. And so one of the tricks is finding ways to allow White to have access to that. And so one of the things we came up with is the idea of letting White regrow small white creatures so that it can't just get anything, but it can refill its army and return to the ranks with cards that's doing exactly that function.